What's up, everyone? It's Canaan, back with another episode of RWBY Alternate Realities. This is part 3 of What If Yang Was a Saiyan. Before I start, I want to thank all the new subscribers. Me and Jess were shocked that we got like 7 subscribers. 7 new subscribers all of a sudden, so thank you very much. Hopefully, we continue to put out content that you want to stay subscribed for. And also, please remember, once again, this is a what if, completely different timeline, so things are not going to be like the original show. Like I said, I don't think Yang is going to be going to Beacon in this, but she will still meet Weiss and Blake. There's going to be a lot of different things, like maybe even things to party dynamics, team dynamics in the schools and all that. But yeah, so before I get started, as always, please consider subscribing. Hit that notification bell. Click that like button. The like button helps a lot. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think and all that. So yeah, last time, and like I said in the comment of the second video, I wasn't too happy with part 2. I didn't have time to really sit down and jog out a lot of things for that one. This one I had a couple of days off to where I could really come up with a basis for the next part. So in part 2, Yang went on a training journey, and of course she encountered a lot of things on that journey. She would meet people that would teach her different things. One sole person told her how to meditate, but other things like discovering that she can use energy and the ability to fly, she taught herself. And in the last one, after having, I believe, a disagreement with Ty, she went up to her room and started to meditate to try and calm down, and someone reached out to her, and I said, no, it was not Raven. It was a female voice telling her, pretty much, you don't know how to use what you've got. Come to me, and I will teach you how to properly use your power. And she tells her to look for her in the southern part of Vale, the far south. And so Yang decides to set out once again. Now, of course, Ty does not want her to, but she says she's going anyway because she needs to learn how to properly use this thing that is key energy, because there's not a whole lot of people in Remnant that know how to use it. And so she travels south and she starts feeling a strong energy signal. And so she follows it and she comes to pretty much a little hut out in the woods. That is where she meets Gia. Gia is a cat faunus. She has the ears. She has semi-long, spiky black hair. She has 2 different eye colors. And she is one of the few people on Remnant that knows what key energy is. She was a very well-known martial artist in her day, and she's not old. I'd say she is probably old enough to be Yang's mom at this point, but she's not Maria old. And this is who will eventually become Yang's martial arts master. Because if RWBY can have Maria, why can't Yang have this badass cat faunus to teach her how to use key energy? Now, just like in Dragon Ball, she starts off Yang's training very simple. Farm work. And at first, Yang is like, why do I need to do this? I could do it in my sleep. Yang is very, not egocentric, not cocky, but, well, yeah, maybe a little cocky. And Gia is going to work that out of her. Now, of course, it's not simple farm work. She has to wear weighted training outfits, and she has to do everything by hand. No tools whatsoever. So if she is going to plant a garden, she has to completely dig it with her bare hands. If she's going to get firewood, she has to knock the tree down with her bare hands. If she has to clear rock, she has to do it with her bare hands. She cannot use energy. It is complete brute strength. And then there's also normal training things like jogging, exercising, and of course sparring. And even though Yang is part Saiyan, Jia has more experience in using ki, and so she is able to use it to outmaneuver Yang, and which for the first time in her life that's happened. And at first it bothers Yang. It makes her mad. It makes her mad to where during sparring her fighting gets sloppy, which Gia tells her, you're used to being able to just outdo everyone and just knock them to the side if you get in an altercation. You've never really went up against anyone that has the skill or experience to put you on your butt. And she puts Yang on her butt several times. And which Yang tries to argue, well, if you didn't work me to the bone every morning and day, and then by the time we spar, I'm tired. And she's like, okay, fine. Tomorrow, no farm work. We're going to spar right first thing in the morning. Gia still beats her. And that is because what I think ki, because there's a lot of people that claim that ki exists in real life. It's spiritual energy. It's energy that's within everybody. And that if you knew how to use it, you would be able to move faster than other people. You would be able to use it to manipulate your movements a bit better. Don't know if it's really a thing. Now, would we be shooting energy blasts out of our hands? I doubt it. But it's supposed to pretty much enhance you. You would be able to knock people on their butts just with a flick of your wrist or whatever. A lot of people say Bruce Lee tapped into it. Who knows to be sure. But since Yang does not really know how to use ki effectively to actually fight, yes, she knows how to throw a blast here and there, but since she doesn't know how to properly use it, it takes her, she's a sitting duck. When she has to stand there and blow a blast out, she can't just willfully do it right now. And so Gia tells her that's where she needs to learn. But first, she wants to properly train Yang from the basics. That's why she's doing the farm work, doing basics sparring. But after a few months, Yang starts getting the hang of it. The weighted outfits don't feel as heavy anymore. She is getting the work done way faster, and she's doing better in sparring, but she still has not beaten Gia at it. This is where Gia starts to include meditation into their training. That way, Yang can also see the benefits of meditation. It's not just to calm your mind, it's to relax you. It's supposed to get you more in tune with your inner energy. And we all know that in Dragon Ball, you're able to actually bring out that energy outside of you. Gohan did it while teaching Videl how to fly. And Gia shows Yang this, pretty much tell her, hey, once you're able to do this willingly and like just as easy as tying your shoes, I'll consider you ready to actually fully train. Now, of course, just like Videl, Yang tries to force it out because she's like, oh, I can do that, and of course she can't do it. She has to actually calm herself and really concentrate. Now, I'm not saying Yang would take days to do this. She does do it in one day. And so Gia says, okay, you're ready. So over the course of a good few months, Gia teaches Yang how to fight with ki. At first, it's movements. Being able to use your ki to move better, move faster. And then teaches her a little bit more about ki control in actually powering up to get stronger and to use energy attacks way more efficiently. Through Gia, Yang is able to go from firing off a couple of blasts to firing off more to actually being able to send out an entire energy wave out of both of her hands. No, it's not the Kamehameha, but let's just think of it as Yang's signature attack. It's yellow with a bit of orange in it, to stay with the fire motif. But all the while, all this training is going on, Raven has found a way to keep an eye on Yang. She's discovered where Yang is. And it's not being able to turn to a bird because this version of Raven did not go to Beacon, so she doesn't know how to do that. But one thing Raven has learned, and that is to mask your energy. Now, would a master like Gia go unaware of this? No, she knows Raven is there, but she can sense the same energy that's coming from Raven that's in Yang. So she kind of puts two and two together. Oh, this must be a relative, more than likely her mom. So one night, while Raven is there and they've retreated from the night, Gia goes out and calls her out. Says, hey, I know you're there. Come on out. I won't tell Yang. And Raven comes out and introduces herself as Yang's mother. And she's like, well, why are you hiding? And then she explains, well, I kind of left her when she was a baby because that's what Saiyans do. She'll find me when I think she's ready, and then I'll train her. And Gia's like, so it kind of rubs Gia the wrong way because Gia has come to care about Yang kind of as a daughter herself. And she's like, no, I think Yang will do fine under me. She's like, no, she needs to train like a Saiyan. You're just training her just like a weak a weak, not Earthling, since we don't know if Remnant is on Earth, but you're training her like a weak person on Remnant. That's a mouthful, but you get what I'm saying. And Gia and Raven almost get into a fight right here and there, but Gia thinks better of it. She doesn't want Yang coming out and seeing this, and definitely doesn't want to risk Yang just attacking her mother without knowing who she is. And so she tells Raven to leave, which, Raven kind of smirks and just humors her and says, fine. But just remember, if I want to come and take my daughter to train her, I'll come take her, and then leaves. So yeah, a little bit of a threat there, but Gia doesn't budge on it. Now, I'm not saying Gia is stronger than Raven, more than likely not. At this point in time, Raven is definitely strong enough to destroy a planet or two. But Gia just has a feeling that Raven is bluffing. She's not going to do anything drastic. So the training continues, and eventually Yang gets to the point to where Gia really thinks there's nothing she can teach her at this moment. And so she decides to send Yang home. Now, at this point in time, I would say, it's been a good number of years. Yang is 18 by this moment. I'd say RWBY is probably going to Signal at this point. Or about to go to Signal, because like I said, Yang is going to be a couple of more years older than RWBY in this timeline. And so Yang comes home to see RWBY off to Signal. And before RWBY goes off, Yang decides to teach her a little bit more on hand-to-hand now that Yang is a bit more proficient in it. And this is where we kind of get the little sparring section from the Yang character short, though instead of Yang leaving for Beacon, it's RWBY leaving for Signal. And we get the whole thing with the Grimm, though Yang defeats the Grimm way easier than she did in the character short, and you pretty much get the whole thing, the sister bonding. Yang tells RWBY she'll always be there for her if she needs her. Though RWBY does have that feeling of independence. She wants to be able to stand on her 2 feet. She knows her sister is way stronger than she could possibly ever be physically, but we all know that RWBY has a power unique to herself, though she does not know it yet. Tai knows because of Summer, but RWBY does not know anything yet. And neither does Yang, of course. So once RWBY leaves for Signal, Yang goes back to Gia for more training, and this is where Gia finally shows Yang her semblance. This whole time, she has not shown her semblance because Gia is originally from Remnant, so she was born with a semblance, of course, um, which she pretty much made stronger thanks to unlocking key energy. Now, I think there's a similar semblance in RWBY, but it's pretty much copy. And it's pretty much, but she uses it differently. She uses it kind of like Tien uses his multi-form technique. She can make several copies of herself, though the more copies she makes, the more weaker the copies are. But it's a great training tool, and it's a great way to pretty much outnumber a opponent in dire situations. And so she finally starts using it to train Yang, to see if Yang can handle more than one opponent that can use Ki. And at first, Yang is very caught off guard by this because she's never seen anything like it. So the copies win. But eventually, Yang gets more and more attuned to it. She can she can sense their movements because of their energy and all that. And so it gets to a point to where she can defeat them, but just barely. So every day, as long as her energy will hold out and her aura will hold out, Gia keeps on using it because she fights with the copies as well. She doesn't have to just stand there and hold it. She can fight freely as well. And so during all this time, her and Gia are getting closer. She does start to see Gia as more of a mother and all that. But then one day, there's a commotion. They hear an explosion. And Yang goes to check it out, which Gia tries to stop her, because she has a feeling that Yang is not a Faunus. You know, Yang did tell her she was a Faunus because of her tail and all that, but Gia knows there's something more special about this young girl. She's different. And so she doesn't want, she's kind of like Tai. She doesn't want Yang to expose herself. That sounds awful, but hopefully you guys know what I mean, to the world just yet. But Yang goes off anyway, and that is where she has found a train with the Schnee Dust Company logo on it that has been derailed by an explosion. And even though Yang does not know who they are yet, because you gotta remember, Yang in a way has kind of been raised like Goku in a way, out in the wilderness, out in the country. She's not too savvy on world events. But she encounters with the White Fang for the first time. And of course, seeing her, they see the tail. They automatically think she's a Faunus. And so they're like, come, sister, have you come to join us in our crusade and all that? And that is where, in this timeline, Yang meets Adam for the first time. Adam, he's been told that, hey, this Faunus girl showed up. She didn't attack us or anything. She didn't run away, so maybe she wants to join us. So he comes out to meet her, and Adam already doesn't trust her. There's something about her that just rubs him the wrong way, and he's like, she's not one of us. Now, how could he know that? We're just gonna say it's his paranoia, because let's admit it. In any timeline, I think Adam is just paranoid and just has a born dislike of Yang. But anyway, before the conversation can deteriorate even more than this, because Yang's starting to get annoyed with this guy, there are some survivors of the train derailment that come out of the train to try and get away, and Yang kills them. Not Yang, Adam. Sorry. Adam kills them. Right in front of Yang, just slices them up with his sword. But before Yang can do anything, another voice yells out and strikes at Adam, but he backs off in time. And there, landing, is Blake Belladonna, though Yang does not know her at this moment. And yeah, Yang is kind of starstruck at this girl that has just shown up. And what has really got Yang off her game is those yellow eyes. But Blake is pretty much there. Like in this timeline, Blake left the White Fang, but she is not constantly running. This Blake is a bit more stronger, a bit more let's say this version was not like she wasn't taken by Adam as much as in the original timeline. This Blake fought back a bit more. But she's there saying, you're destroying what the White Fang was. You're just killing people at random at this point, whether it's human or faunus. I'm gonna stop you. Which Adam, chuckles because this Adam is still a good bit stronger than Blake at this point. It says, "Do you really believe that? Are you really going to stand and fight?" And they start to fight. They dash at each other, and Yang is standing there still, like, what is going on? What am I witnessing here? Like, who are these people? And she goes to step in, but the other White Fang members get in between her and say, don't you interfere. We'll kill you if you do. And Yang's just like, okay, screw this, and punches one of them, sends them flying through a couple of trees and into a rock face. And the others look at each other, then look at her, and they're like, and they run away. And Adam knows this, and Adam, being Adam, decides, okay, this is a little, I don't know who this other girl is. She just completely wrecked one of my guys completely, and I'm the only one here. So he decides to run away. And so Yang walks over to this pretty yellow-eyed girl and is like, hey, those were some pretty good moves, blah, blah, blah. And Blake kind of looks at her coldly and is like, you shouldn't have interfered. This was my fight. And Yang's like, well, you're welcome. And Blake just looks at her and says, this next time, if we ever see each other again, don't interfere again. And Blake leaves. So Yang's a little starstruck at this moment. It's like, who was this? Was that girl? But decides to go back. Gia scolds her, tells her that she has half a mind to send her to bed without supper, which Yang completely has a fit over because, Saiyans love to eat. So Gia decides to feed her, but says she's got to do the dishes, and she has to do twice the chores the very next day. But the whole entire night laying in bed, she can't stop thinking of the yellow-eyed girl. But sadly for Yang, it'll be a while before she sees Blake again. So move on. A couple more years goes by, and it is finally time for Ruby to go to Beacon. She goes off to Beacon, but Yang is still out training with Gia, and Gia has now started giving her training missions to go on. Go do this, go do that, go do that. If you can do this, then you're ready for the next step. But Yang decides to sneak over to Beacon to check up on Ruby, and this is where the biggest difference is. In this timeline, Huntsman and Huntress teams are not 4 people. They are just a team of 2. And that is where Yang sees that Ruby has been teamed up with Wai Schnee. Now, Yang still does not know much about the Schnee Dust Company or anything like that, but just watching from a distance, she can already tell she doesn't think too much of Weiss. Because Weiss is bossy. She's a little rich princess who keeps talking down to Ruby and all that. Yang doesn't like this. Now, of course, Yang is, at this point, I'd say around in her early 20s. So she is definitely too old probably to be at a... Well, no, I think she would be around graduation age, because you go into Beacon normally at 17, I think. Yeah, so she's probably around graduation age at this point. Maybe. I can't remember if the schools were 4 years like normal schools or not. But but being completely oblivious to anything, she decides to walk around freely on campus, just to keep an eye on Ruby, but not letting Ruby know that she's there because she doesn't want Ruby to be embarrassed. This Yang is a little bit more akin to not embarrass Ruby with just running over to her and hugging her in front of everybody and all that. But she is, of course, eventually spotted, and they're like, hey, no trespassing, blah, blah, blah. But Ozpin stops them because, of course, him being friends with Tai, he knows who Yang is. So he brings her to his office. And, he's being cheeky because he's like, Tai told me he had a Faunus daughter, but I have a feeling the story is bigger than that. And Yang, of course, not knowing her background or anything, is like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, he plays dumb. It's like, well, maybe I'm mistaken. So why'd you come to Beacon? It's like, well, I just wanted to see my sister. He's like, well, we've got a greeting center for that where you can sign in to see her. And she's like, well, I didn't know that. He's like, well, it's fine. From now on, you're free to come and go as you please. Just don't beat up my I don't know if Beacon really had security, but let's just say they do in this one. Don't beat up campus security pretty much next time, because she roughed them up a little bit when they tried to kick her off campus. And so that is how Ruby finally finds out that Yang is there. She's still embarrassed because she did beat up the security in front of everybody. But there were, of course, some students who were very impressed, like, wow, maybe I could learn a thing or two from her. And then she meets Weiss. And we all know how Weiss was around Volume 1. And she's not very impressed. And that's when her and Ruby start into a little argument. My sister is better. Well, you've never met my sister, blah, blah, blah. And, Yang just stands there, scratching the back of her head like, maybe I should have stayed with Gia at this point. But she goes back. Gia is once again not happy that she just up and left. But Gia at this point has kind of accepted that Yang is kind of free spirit in a way, like she's going to come and go as she pleases. But it's also because Gia is a little sad that her time training Yang is almost done. She's pretty much taught Yang everything she knows. But about another year goes by, and on the very last day that she is going to be teaching Yang, she's going to finally let Yang graduate and go on. That is when Yang feels like something is wrong. And pretty much she decides that she wants to go check up on Ruby because something is just not right. So Yang quickly flies to Beacon, and it is the fall of Beacon. And that is where we will pick up next episode. So, pretty much a training episode, pretty much explaining how Yang is going to be able to catch up to being more of an all-around fighter by the time things really start taking off. Now, like I said, I don't know if Yang will lose her arm in this one because I just don't know if Adam would really be able to do that kind of damage to pretty much a Saiyan that's been a half Saiyan that's been training for about, for a good long time, about since she was 12 at this point. I'll still make it to where Adam can pose a threat, but I just don't know if she'll lose her arm in this version. Because like I said, this is an alternate timeline. But hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment. Fall of Beacon is next, and the fallout from that and where things go from there, which includes possibly Yang still going to find Raven and eventually training under her. What is Blake's role going to be in all of this? You'll have to find out in the upcoming parts. So as always, guys, this is Cannan. Me and Jess love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.